Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I've got another little project here. I've got this Kawasaki string trimmer that was given to me by my friend. He was throwing it out a few years ago, and I never got around to doing anything with it because I had my trusty Steel FS45 string trimmer, so I really didn't need another trimmer. And I'm waiting for parts. The recoil starter on my Steel finally broke, and while I'm waiting for parts for that, I figured I'd take a look and see if this wasn't something simple I could fix. When he had given me this trimmer, or offered it to me originally, I noticed that it was a Kawasaki, and it's a Kawasaki KGT27A, so it's not a cheap trimmer. It's actually a pretty decent brand. So I figured this might be worth doing something with. Figured it was going to be the typical bad fuel stored, you know, in carburetor kit type of thing, primer bulb maybe, that kind of thing, and, you know, might be a pretty easy fix. Well, I just tried throwing some gas directly down the throat of the carburetor and pulling it over, and it doesn't even pop off. So I thought, well, that's interesting. So then, up underneath this rubber boot, here's the spark plug. I pulled the spark plug out, put a little bit of fuel directly into the spark plug hole, pulled it, still not popping off. So then I was like, well, maybe it doesn't have spark. And I also noticed that when I pull it, that actually doesn't seem too bad now, but I noticed that it seemed like it was making some, every once in a while, it felt weird and made a strange noise. So then I pulled the plug, and I held the plug up against the head, and when I pulled it over, I noticed a couple of things. I noticed the spark wasn't consistent. It didn't spark every time I pulled it. And I also noticed again that I still had this kind of weird noise going on. So I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. So I just took this cover off, and that's when I decided I better make a video, because this is one for the books. I've never seen this before. You take these two top screws off of the recoil out, and the one screw hidden underneath this rubber boot here out, and that allows this whole assembly to pop up. And you're going to push the boot back down through, like so, and that opens this all up. And now if I turn it around so we can look at the front, here's the magneto right here, okay? And there's the flywheel and the magnets on it for the magneto. Get a load of this. The flywheel is loose. So how that has happened, I do not know. I'm beginning to suspect it's cracked. So it looks like the easiest way to find out is probably to just pull this whole motor off of the shaft assembly, which I'm not quite sure how to do that on this model, but this will start maybe by taking these screws out here that hold this cover in place. Alright, I took those 4 screws out, and this does feel like it might just separate pretty easily. I think maybe it's these 2 screws on the bottom that hold this tank strap on. Might be what's left holding it. There we go. Huh. Maybe that just loosened up. That'd be a hoot. Okay, so I could see the nut down inside there that actually holds this flywheel onto the crankshaft. But it looks like to get to it, you got to take this part of the clutch off. Huh. I think what I'm going to do, it looks to me like maybe if I can unlatch this spring, that these 2 clutch shoes might actually swing out a little bit, maybe? Or maybe they just slide right off. It's going to be a lot easier to take these off without the spring tension in there to fight with, so I'm going to try and pull this spring off. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, see? Just sort of swing these suckers out of the way. Okay, so now I'm going to want to, I can loosen that nut with my fingers. I'm going to take this all the way off. I want to see what the taper looks like. See if there's a key that's sheared. Definitely put some Loctite on that if we're able to rescue this thing. The good news is the flywheel doesn't appear to have a crack in it. Well, there's definitely a place for a key, and I don't see one. No wonder why this thing wouldn't start. I guess that's what's left of a key is... I wonder if the key is supposed to be an integral part of the flywheel. What I ended up doing was I went my Woodruff key set, and I found a Woodruff key that was closest to the size that I needed, and it didn't fit because this is probably a metric key. And then I ground it by hand to actually fit. And I also used my pattern files and ended up actually cutting a groove for the Woodruff key into the flywheel, because the nearest I can figure is that at some point early on in production, when this was made, the flywheel had an integral key. There was no groove with no sheared off key stuck in it. Yet when I look up the parts for this model, it clearly shows a key, a separate key. So my theory again is that in later production, they realized they needed a key in there. Either that, or the repair involves a new flywheel which has a groove in it and a new key to replace this old assembly. I didn't even bother trying to find a new one of these online. Somebody's got a used flywheel assembly, which I'd still have to buy a key for, and they want like $50 for the flywheel assembly, which is just nuts. It's just not worth it. So I'm going to roll with it this way. We'll see if it works. I also I put Loctite on the threads. I used blue. I didn't want to use red, because red you need, it's much stronger, but then you need heat to break it free, just in case I need to take this back off. Although the reality is, if this doesn't work, I'm probably just going to junk the whole thing anyways. But it's on there securely for now. I don't know how long it'll last before it comes flying off at speed, but it'll certainly make things interesting. I put the spring back on, so now I just got to reassemble this. Okay, I guess let's check for spark first. Yep, all right. And let's give it a little bit of fuel. There we go. So, I wonder if this is going to need a carb kit. It's been sitting several years, so I wouldn't be surprised. But just for the heck of it, put some fuel in the tank. Let's see if this primer bulb draws anything up. Idle is way too high. I wonder if when he was trying to get it going, I wonder if he was messing around with any adjustments. Because yeah, this idle screw looks like it's way too far in. Huh?
That salad's on one?
Yeah.
You got it running.
Yeah. What time is it?
After 5, we'll grill hot dogs.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Get that leftover potato salad, and I made cucumbers.
Okay. Well, I would say that that's a runner. Well, thanks for watching.